What's going on, my beautiful, ethereal, fashionable angels? It's your boy DAKA, coming at you live and direct from the Haute Milk podcast. This is your new, frothy, fabulous show, spilling everything on fashion, sewing, and the broader couture culture. Hosted by myself, every episode is a blend of creativity, conversation, and a love for the threads that bind us all together. So come on in here, pour up a nice tall glass, and settle in for this week's episode. You won't want to miss it. Let's start the show. Okay, we are here. We're live. What's going on, everybody? This is the first episode of Haute Milk. That's what this is called. This is just fashionable conversations with fashionable people, talking to those of us that are in the industry, who've got experience, just learning about what people do and talking about the major things that are going on in our world. So I'm super excited to have on my first guest today, Miss Adilah Muhammad. Hi, Adilah.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing, friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
I'm so glad that you're here. So I'm gonna just jump right into it. We've known each other for some years. We go way, way back. But let the people know who you are. So tell me a little bit about who are you. Tell me who you are, Miss Adilah.
So, again, yeah, I'm Adilah from Chicago. I live in the greater Chicago area. Um, I am basically a fashion designer slash, I would say, apparel production consultant, here in the Chicagoland area. So basically, I run a business where I produce small batch clothing that are basically women's apparel. And then I basically am hired sometimes as a consultant for other people who are basically trying to start their own fashion business here in Chicago. And my emphasis is mainly on production in the US. So I help people either figure out how they're going to set up their own systems to produce in the US. Maybe sometimes I may help them figure out how they're going to structure some of their supply chain, even if they're going to do it overseas, but how they're going to do part of it here in the US. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell. And then I sometimes teach fashion.
Some only sometimes though.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as you can see, a very well-rounded career. But where we all come from a place. I know where I know you from. From North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie Pride.
Where I
Um,
got my fashion degree from. So, yeah.
yeah, see, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's start from kind of like the beginnings of how you kind of even got interested in just being in the fashion scene itself, and then kind of your matriculation through everything that you're doing now. It's like, what was like your first like memory of like fashion being like important to you, or you like connecting with it?
So, I think that it started like at a very young age. So my mother said that one of my first sewing projects was something I was given in preschool, which was kind of crazy when I think about it. Preschool, it was like a teddy bear we had to make. And she said that I wouldn't let her sew any parts of it. Like she said that I would, ask for help, but I'm like, I gotta do it myself. But I remember later on, like my mother also sewed. She didn't sew a lot, but she sewed enough that I remember it. And that's when I remember us making like my first pair of shorts together. And I remember like flipping in them and like just having like time of my life. I accidentally ripped them shorts same day actually. Um, because I was just excited. I was like, man, this is how you make clothes? Okay.
Yeah.
Then we went on to make a dress. So this is like 7 years old with the shorts. Then I'm 9 with the dress. And I remember somewhere down the line, because I am such a huge movie person, I just remember thinking like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then, of course, when you had DVDs, you had like the special features, and people were really into producing behind the scene work
Yeah.
for movies. And I remember my first thing that made me say like, oh, I can really do this for real is the movie Memoirs of a Geisha. They showed somebody being a textile artist, recreating all of the fabric because most of the authentic material has been destroyed. So they had to recreate all of that for that movie. And I was like, man, this is like, I've never heard of this. I don't know anybody who do this. So I that was probably some of my earliest memories, along with the Ebony Fashion Fair. So my mother took me to like one of their last fashion shows, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. With um, basically all the women who were there were some type of like professionals, people who like really supported the show,
Yeah.
but also seeing like those black models like wearing all of this like extremely high fashion work within the fashion industry, and it being on tour. So opening up those Ebony magazines and seeing like the list of tours when they're stopping off into different cities. One of the last times they stopped, of course, was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Hey, we going." She knew like it wasn't gonna last that long, so she was like, "No, you definitely going to see that."
Yeah. That's funny because like that was I also went to I think it was probably the last year they did it and they stopped in Charlotte. And so
Wow.
I went there as well. And that was I think that was probably my first fashion show that I can remember like watching and understanding like, oh, this is a thing. Like there's parts to this. Aside from clothes, it's a whole production, you know?
Yeah, it was such a unique experience.
Yeah, I mean, and it was for us. It was for the culture. It was started by Eunice Johnson. I mean, like just her story. I love her. But just the fact that that even existed and existed for as long as it did, I would love for it to like make a comeback in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know if we'll ever be able to capture that magic again the way
Yeah.
that you know but yeah, that was a core memory for me too. Okay, so start off sewing, made your first pair of shorts. I think that's every person's maybe like first sewing project. I mean, that's all that I did,
Yeah.
but I just need something to do. So,
Same.
um, it's fun. It's simple. You can use them all over the place. Okay, so then talk about how like when you got to college, when you got to A&T, how did you make the decision that you was it already a decision that you knew you wanted like study this full time or kind of what was that like for you?
Initially I toyed with the idea of going to school for fashion because I wasn't sure. And sometimes I'll be honest, it's something I still toy with to this day because when I was younger, my whole thing before wanting to go into fashion, which is something I strongly still love, was the medical field. And I was like, I'm definitely going to be a surgeon. So as much as I was watching stuff about fashion, I was watching the Health Channel, watching
Mm,
all the like weird, gruesome stuff, the surgeries and everything. And somewhere down the line, I was just like, well, I can always be a doctor. I don't know if I can always be a fashion designer. And I don't know why I rationalized that, but I guess my thought process maybe at the time was, well, a lot of doctors are old, right? So they've done this for years. They could jump in whenever they want to and train and like it never go out of style, being a doctor. But I guess for me, I didn't know if fashion worked the same way
mm,
because in my brain, sure, you can be old and doing it, but a lot of people start out young doing it. And so I was like, well, maybe like, let's see if I even get accepted anywhere. Now, the way I came upon going to North Carolina A&T was I always wanted to go to a HBCU,
mm,
and that was just very hard, like to figure out if I can even find a school that would give me like the HBCU experience, but also go to school for fashion. And I was really just down for the HBCU experience and willing to abandon fashion altogether, because I was like, that's just so important to me. I watched A Different World every morning. It was the show that, reason why I was late to school every morning. And I was like, so I can't give that up for nothing. And so as I'm like looking through schools and I'm about to start applying, I literally come across North Carolina A&T. And T.
mm,
And I go, okay, hold on. Like this got to be the school. And then as I was looking into North Carolina, oddly enough, I came across NC State.
mm,
And I went down for a tour and my dad goes, we can go to both. We could tour both. North Carolina State is only like 45 minutes away, it seems. Like we could just do both. I didn't even know that Central even had like North Carolina Central had a fashion program. Like literally, like I didn't know much about North Carolina. My family in the South are not from North Carolina. They're from Mississippi, Arkansas. Tennessee, not North Carolina. So nobody is telling me like, here are some of your options.
Sure.
So when I went to North Carolina A&T, I literally was like, oh, this is the school. We don't got to see North Carolina State. This is it. We didn't even see inside the fashion building. I was just like, yep, this is good enough right here. I'll be enrolling. And as soon as I got my acceptance, which I kid you not, it was in October of 2009.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this is school I'm going to. Like, I just stopped applying to schools. I didn't even apply for anything like pre-med. I was like, oh, so it's meant to be because I got into this HBCU for fashion. I think I did get in. Actually, I don't even think I even, which is so crazy. I don't even think I applied to the fashion schools like Parsons and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, like I think I was in the process, but as soon as I got accepted to North Carolina A&T, I was like, oh yeah, that's a wrap. Like we ain't got to go up there. We can come right here, be taught by black teachers or teachers who just really care about black students, which I feel like is the other thing. You don't always get black teachers at those schools, but you have teachers that are like extremely invested and they buy into the culture of what HBCUs are about. And so I was like, that's where I'm going.
I love that. And so I had a similar experience with picking A and T. Like, and I'm from North Carolina, so like I was aware. Um, I also wanted the HBCU experience, so I already knew it was going to be somewhere. At the time, and I ended up majoring in graphic design at A and T, but I wanted, and that's what my major was going to be wherever I went, because I knew that I wanted to work in the fashion industry, but I didn't think I was going to be on the creative side in the sense of like actually creating garments and working on that. I was like, I want to do like the advertising. So that's why I wanted to use my graphic design training for it to be like in the advertising sector. My dream job was to work in GQ. Like that was my dream. I wanted to work in GQ, be in the advertising side,
Yeah.
be in New York, that whole Devil Wears Prada
I'm
situation.
sorry. Yep.
Favorite movie, and we'll talk about that later because part two
Yeah.
is coming out and I have thoughts. So
Yeah.
but I didn't know. It wasn't until senior year that I knew that we even had a fashion program at A&T.
I know they don't do a good job with showing that. I mean, and the only reason why I say that is because I think in a lot of ways they didn't feel like it's the premier program, right? And it's not the premier program, right? It's not where they're graduating the most students.
Yeah.
However, I think that they give it is I think it's a idealistic school for having something that's small and nurturing. So, like for example, I didn't even know, and I shouldn't. I'm not trying to bring up this other school, but just saying, like I said, North Carolina Central has
Mhm.
fashion. Howard has fashion. Howard, I didn't even know that. Like, and
I
I'm
didn't know.
right. And so when I found out North Carolina Central had a fashion program, one of my recent students who graduated from high school was like, "I'm mad I didn't get into A&T, but I got into Central because they have a fashion program." And I was like, Central? What? You know, and I,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and it's so weird because for people who primarily go to those schools, they are from North Carolina, right? They do have those dreams, just like you talked about. And to not know, like, this is something that's literally at my home where I could just stay here and go to school. I don't have to go somewhere far off. It's so, it's so disheartening to me
yeah,
that that is what's happening, that students do go there and they don't know. And we had modeling troops and all types of stuff, and like no one thinks about fashion there. I even remember Ralph Lauren coming to interview students and they were for the business department. And I was like,
really.
this is like, do they not know we have a fashion department? Like,
And
but
yeah, yeah.
it was
And
weird.
I feel like that's not that's surprising that they came, but it's not surprising that they only came for the business student
Yeah.
because I remember going to those career fairs and just being like,
Yeah. I honestly, okay, I'm telling myself, I did not go to those career fairs. Because I was just like, for what I was looking for, and I guess that was very narrow minded, but I was also narrowing in on like the vision of what I wanted. And I was like,
Yep.
they are not bringing people who I want to see, and those people are not looking for me.
Right.
Um, they're looking for someone who has an engineering degree, who's going to school for business, and not that I wasn't. We did have business courses enough to minor in it, but I was like, ah, between me and like the business students, they probably are not really looking for me. They are looking for someone who has a management degree, marketing,
Supply chain.
yeah, supply chain. Um, they're probably gonna be like, what are you doing here? You know, or confused about why I'm there in front of them. So I didn't go to career fairs. Did not.
Yeah, they didn't really. I would say that's the biggest upset that I felt like if I did, and this is what I've also heard, and a lot of people have felt this way about whatever school they've gone to, whatever HBC they've gone to, and felt like I didn't get XYZ thing, and it's more so it's like HBC, the HBCU experience and going to school at HBCU like prepares you more so for life after, like how to deal with people and like the world
Mhm.
more so, and it's not to say that they don't, but more so than like, oh, let's get you this job right now. Because like when I graduated, I was like, dang, I've seen all the engineers and everyone else like, and I'm like, don't really know what's going on. I did an internship and everything, and here we are. So
Yeah. And I also don't know if, and I guess it's so weird because maybe in our fields, but I feel like it shouldn't have been a thing in your particular field of graphic design because I feel like graphic design, and I could be ignorant to the field, but I feel like graphic designers get more actual I should say real employment, but like fashion designers tend to get more contract work.
sure, no, I get,
Yeah, so I think that sometimes I don't know, like to get those, at least for fashion, to get those type of people to come and recruit, they're not even technically employers, well, or employees for an employer. But I also just thought, in my experience, based off my teacher, like the things they were saying, I think they just had a hard time keeping track with people and where they went because there was such a
yeah,
small department. And then I think also they realized some people just did not go into fashion, so they
yeah,
transitioned to something else. Because I'm even curious for some of my former classmates who have made it into like different fashion fields. um have they reached out? I know like they have to some degree, where which was nice that they did. We did a big class one time for the people in that department, which was really nice.
oh,
And it was
cool.
me and other people who had graduated, but that was probably like one of the few times where I was like, oh, this is nice that you guys are finally connecting people, because that's what we need. And I think that was what we were looking for to some degree, because we're like, yeah,
Yeah,
we did the internships. Now we got to figure out how to do, how to get the job, especially because we're not, like, the great thing is we went to that school. The teachers are really good at those schools.
yeah,
But it's more so now, like how you said, like going to New York. Like I thought at some point I would be in New York. So it's like, how do we get to New York? Like, how do we reach those people? Because
yeah,
the people in New York are already reaching those people. We're in North Carolina trying to get there.
right,
So totally get it.
yeah. And I think the other thing, and this is, and maybe you've had a different experience coming from Chicago, because I don't know how. I know for North Carolina and like for Charlotte particularly, it's not known as like hasn't been traditionally known as like a fashion city or like a creative city, right? But I will say in the last 10 to 15 years, that has completely flipped. Like we're now like there's a big focus on the arts and like local creatives and that grassroots kind of stuff going on now, in conjunction with banking, which we've been had forever, but I think because the city has started to, I think it's because the city has started to attract so many younger people that work in the industry, other industries that are arts minded, because I think that's just our generation and like Gen Z. We're very much that, like, have a importance, or consider that important, I should say. So I think that's kind of helped with that a lot, because now I look at like the opportunities that are here in the city now versus when I moved back in 2016, and it's completely different. Like there's or organizations all over the place. There's funding, like there's funding all the time. Now it's hard to get some of that funding, but it's there and it's available. Versus when I first moved back, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I
Yeah.
gotta go. So I ran down to Atlanta,
Yeah.
and then I came.
And it's crazy because when you think about like North Carolina as a state, like I never understood like, and I guess maybe because it's this whole thing of like the fashion industry or like arts, like they like to centralize places as like the hub. But like when you think about North Carolina, like if you really know the history, like textiles is a huge thing there, right? Or the
Yeah,
fact that like, and not even just textile, like furniture and like it's
mhm,
always been like the muscle of our country for that type of work. And
yeah,
then when you also even put in perspective of like some of the companies that I remember in Greensboro that were apparel production companies who are
yeah,
big name. One of my colleagues who used to do work for me when I first started my brand moved to Greensboro. Like I remember talking to her, well, he's her husband now, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna move to Greensboro." Like, he was like, "Gonna move to this place in North Carolina. You probably never heard of it. It's Greensboro." And I was like, "Yeah, I went to school there." And he goes, "Oh, well, she's, about to take this job there." And I used to, of course, just like when I was at school, would be shocked because like no internship opportunities for us,
right,
nobody has reached out. I think we had one person in our department at the time who like was lucky. We were like, "How did you get an internship there?"
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the fact that like VF is there and VF has like so much. So I mean, I never could understand that, sometimes when that happens. But I'll say even from a Chicago perspective, I personally did not want to move back here for fashion. Of course, I want to go to like New York. Now, I'll say for us, we do have like really great like fabric stores here. You should definitely come up here one one, summer. I always
okay,
encourage summers, not winter.
yeah,
Summer and so we do have like great resources that have stayed like
sure,
because from my understanding when I was growing up, like my grandparents and my mom, like they remember how it used to be like really fashion, like of a hub where you can go into, well, I guess it wasn't Macy's, it was Marshalls. You can go in there and get clothes made inside of Marshalls.
oh wow,
Um,
okay,
right, yeah. I didn't even know that, but they were like, yeah, you can go in there and like you can get the fabric and go in there and have them make you something.
yeah,
Okay. Then you could it's a guy who is not that far from Marshall's. Well, not well, it's Macy's now, but it's also in between two fashion schools that's in the area. And people always joke who are like much older. They're like, "Man, he's been doing this for so long," but they also remember like that area was filled with like fabric stores and whatnot, or some type of production, and he's like
mhm,
the last of the last. And I did meet like someone through a contractor who used to sew work for me, like sew some clothes for me. She invited me into a building and I was like amazed because technically where she was, it on the outside it just looks like regular high-rise office spaces. But
yeah,
technically this space I guess had reinforced floor where a lot of people did do production. So she ran a whole cleaners facility slash garment production place inside that building. And it's just one of those things that like when I was here before I left, I mean, it's always been the whole, oh, we have this school and this school for fashion. And probably before I left, we had more things geared towards the arts and fashion. Because the former mayor, well, one of the former mayors was really into that. So he would have
mhm,
like Chicago Fashion Week, or was it Chicago Fashion Focus or something. Like he would have all these things and they would really pub it up, especially because we do have a couple of designers here who are like $1,000,000 fashion businesses like Maria Pinto, who make
mhm,
I think she made Michelle Obama's inauguration dress or
Yeah.
one of her dresses. But they at one point hit like a really bad lull where one of the mayors was like, "Yeah, forget all that art stuff. We want to like focus on tech." And so for a minute we
Okay.
had a high thing about tech and all the arts was like getting pushed to the side. So now we're kind of entering a boom of people trying to like bring it back. But the people who are trying to bring it back are also people who are Chicago transplants. So we are trying to see how they're going to make it work. Chicago's just not a uh it's not an open door for those type of things. You know, they really want to feel you out in this particular artist hub. And then once they feel like, okay, you know what? You care about Chicago, you care about what is already here. Okay, we could kind of look into what you're trying to sell us. So, but they're not like the most excited sometimes when people bring ideas. They're like, no, who is this person? Let's fill them out.
Sure. Because, like, what do you know about this area? What do you know about the culture? Are you just trying to jump off of what we've already built, or are you trying to add,
Yeah.
something to help revitalize this place that you call home now? We see that. I've seen that a lot in Charlotte. There's this huge discourse on threads of like people just complaining about Charlotte ain't got this, Charlotte ain't got that, da, 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 da,
Mhm.
da. When it's like y'all moved here, what'd you
Yeah.
come here? And then, a lot of that goes into the whole, like, again, not knowing or bothering to care about the history of where you're coming to, or actually engage with the people that already live there and learn something. And so, like, you're not gonna know. You're only gonna if you're only interacting with the popular things that are going on that you see on Instagram at this club, this bar, or whatever have you, then yeah, you're gonna be bored. You're not gonna find community because no one's going to a bar to meet community.
Yes.
They're going there to get a drink and try and get someone's number, maybe, possibly.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I think too
But it's it.
we had like this weird moment too because you have like so Akira is here, right? And Akira, a lot of people are really into Akira now. Um, but Akira also, I think, was kind of like for us, which signaled like something transitioning within our fashion space, which was at a certain point, people were like, we don't care about fashion shows. Like, we care about how to really truly support designers. Like, so if your fashion shows aren't really showing how to support designers,
Mhm.
we don't care, you know? So now we're finally seeing like how people, and I only bring up Akira because Akira, they used to do really great shows that were like, I used to go to them. Like they would have you show up at like a random bar or club, and you're like, "Why are we at the club?" And it was like because they're about to do a fashion show at the club in the middle of the night.
Okay.
um, but the thing that was interesting was that it did start to show the fact of like, oh, this is how people really not necessarily have a fashion show at the club, but of course a fashion show that really shows like they are trying to show you how to support them as a brand and really making a
Yeah.
statement about like people want to see shows that are really going to highlight the brand and not just we're doing this cutesy thing for
Hmm.
people to just show up to say that
Yeah.
they went to a
Like,
fashion show.
yeah.
Yep.
Like we're not just add on to this event. We're not an afterthought or a place where it's like we're inviting all these, who's who, just to have them all in the
Yeah.
building. But yeah.
Yeah, so
So do
that's
you?
what's
So
happened here. So people are more intentional now about that type of stuff.
yeah. And I think that's just a big thing that's happening all over the space. Like I think this push towards like intentionality, but also um what's the word I'm looking for? And relatability, realness, for lack of a better term. Like it's like, is this not for show? Like what's the organic in a way?
Yeah.
Like is this real? Is this grassroots? Like or is this all for show? I think people are starting to see. I think people are so burnt out on the overproduction of things in general, like things being super duper curated, or aesthetics more so, and not really of quality.
Yeah.
product or a quality experience underlying it that they're like, I want the real stuff. I don't want this, whatever. I think, and I've seen that with like the interest in Fashion Week. Like people are not like, Fashion Week was like, oh, I'm going to Fashion Week. I got it. Now it's like people are like, eh, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah.
So,
Because you want me to go see pretty things, and it's
mhm,
like, all right, I can see those pretty things. And I think too, like there's this like too like I think there's so many dynamics happening with that. Whereas for one, like we see designers like pulling out of just even participating because
yeah,
they cost so much. And even if you're on a smaller scale, I know that was something I even took a step back from even doing fashion shows because they cost you, right? You have to put together this production, and if you're with some type of event who wants to put together this production, it's costing you, a few thousand to be a part. Sometimes depending on the production, it can cost you a few thousand to be in these fashion shows compared to maybe a lower scale where it's like, probably it's minimal risk. Maybe you can get in there for free, it's no problem, or they've already worked out the kinks. They just need you to be a designer to, you
right.
know, uh, for this particular charity. I've done a lot of them, and but I think when we're talking about like that big production piece that you're talking about, it can really make or break you for the year. And those fashion shows, you're hoping, at least for Fashion Week, that's the thought process. You're hoping that those people are going to be a customer. Like when you sit Beyonce down, somebody on Beyonce's
Mhm,
team is like, we need that exact outfit. We're going to purchase that.
right.
Compared to what then show what's not shown, which is the more market part of Fashion Week, which is the real clothes that they're going to sell in the store. And even then, you're hoping like from renting out those spaces, inviting those people to write about the clothes and to be the buyers. You're hoping that they're going to buy it to put it in Nordstrom or Saks or whatever. And it's just costing so much money that people are like, the businesses are like, we can't keep doing this like throughout the
Yeah,
year. But if I'm also a person that's attending, fashion shows cost,
yeah,
even on a smaller side. Like, do I want to spend $50 for a fashion show, $60, or yeah, most
yeah.
people they would like to go for free, maybe $10, $20. They don't want to spend,
And yeah,
a lot of money.
yeah, and that's just the reality of it. Like, I think it's a couple different things with that. Number one, I mean, have you seen the economy? Have you seen what we got going on? It's difficult. When you got to toss up between, this fashion event and putting gas in your car, whatever have you. There's always going to be that
Yeah,
there. But also just from the because I've been and participated in like bigger scale events and smaller scale and all the in between. So like for a larger scale event and you've got this from a consumer standpoint, you've got this ticket that's costing you, $60 plus whatever have you. It's like, okay, but what am I getting with that?
yeah,
What am I getting with it? Am I just going and sitting? And if I'm paying an extra $20 to be VIP, what am I getting with that VIP experience? And is that worth this money? Of course it helps if it's, tied to like, I think people would be more apt to pay that, of course, if it's tied back to a charitable cause, or it's like, hey, this goes to paying the designers. Because that's the other thing, like you mentioned, like if a designer is participating in Fashion Week, they're not getting paid for that. They're hoping to get paid from people seeing their work, but
yeah,
they don't get paid for participating. But
yeah,
they're putting in all this money into
yeah.
it.
And I think that's the
You know,
problem with like fashion in a larger sense because I think a lot of times uh, as a collective, as a society, like people who just love fashion, even if it's just at minimum, don't realize like the larger industry scale stuff that happens that we are privy to learn about via TikTok or a news write up or whatever. It does not translate well when you're trying to do it for the regular everyday person. It just doesn't. And that's why there's always like people not understanding, that even if you see somebody at Fashion Week and they're all sitting down, they got seats. These are all paid seats. These people, like some people got invited, but they probably still got invited to pay for that seat. Like it's not just showed up and like you said, what do they get? Like they don't get anything but the pleasure to be there, right? And
Yeah.
for the regular common person who's like, man, I paid $60. What do I get? Do I get a drink? Do I get a little appetizer? Do I get a little swag bag?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for us, we're like, we spent our hard-earned money. That $60 could have went to gas or to groceries or whatever. Like, I need something, not just the entertainment of somebody just walking down here, the aisle. And I'm probably not gonna support the brand. I just support fashion shows, right? So it's like there's this it doesn't have the same meaning, as
Right.
a directly industry. I mean, it could, but usually the people that we're having our fashion shows for, they're not the same people like in the industry they're having their fashion shows for. So the meaning gets misconstrued somewhere in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so you got to find that balance. You got to figure out what is the what is the driving factor. Is you the person producing the show? What is your actual driving factor? What's your bottom line of what you're trying to do this for? And then how do you engage? Offer something more than just watching a model do whatever. What else is there? So that leads me to my next thing. So you have your own brand.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that. First of all, tell us about the brand. Tell us everything. Just talk to me all the things. I just want to hear everything.
Like, so I have a brand. I started it uh started it in 20, I guess technically 2016 in a small way, like meaning like I started it and I was like trying to figure out what I was going to be doing with it. It wasn't until 2018 I kind of finally released the actual line. So it's called Adilah M, and it's basically like I said, a women's apparel brand, produce small batches. Meaning I guess they're limited edition, as you could probably say, limited edition. They are not
Drop
overly
those
produced,
profit.
right? And but the whole thing is that I am a person who likes to play with the sleekness of silhouettes through basically either really bold looking designs or just even sometimes like in between um a bold or minimal design. So it's basically I just love marrying the pair of something just like really refined and tailored. Um I am sometimes always on and off with this brand. I'll be honest, right now I'm off with the brand, taking a break. Because I needed a break in the market. I think sometimes it's just so volatile for somebody who is a small designer. And I'm trying to ride it out. So I still do some work. I do when I'm not producing lines, I do mainly like custom work or I may reproduce something for clients. But part of why I'm on a hiatus is because, if I'm being honest with you, the first time that man was in presidency, Mr. DT, um,
Yeah.
he had tariffs, and those tariffs about wiped me out the first time. It took me by shock, literally raised the cost of goods for me overnight, and I produce in the US, but it has nothing to do with the goods, right? And so we're kind of like back in the same spot again with the
Yeah.
rising cost of like fabrics and other resources. And though I purchase my stuff through, and I guess I should say that too, I try to purchase everything through suppliers that are here in the US. But they still use overseas manufacturing because most of the
Right.
stuff that I'm buying, silks and stuff, that is stuff that comes straight overseas. Um, but with that being said, you still incur costs. So we're trying to see when some of this stuff will balance out a little more so we can get back into it. But that's what I do. So I've been doing that for 26, wow, so almost like 10 years. That's crazy.
It goes by fast. I'm telling you. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember when you like soft launched, and
Yeah.
then you started doing. I was like, this is so
Oh
good.
man. Yeah. It's been a whirlwind. Sometimes I'm like, why did you even do it? And not because of a bad thing, but it was just like I spent my 20s like grinding myself to the ground. And it was worth it, but I just didn't expect that in my I thought this was something I'd be doing like now in my 30s, like
Sure.
my career path I think is not exactly what I wanted, which is still fine, and it worked out well, but in my brain I thought like I'll be off, working for a company, getting a few years under my belt, establishing connections so that I can have enough footing and funding and padded pockets to do it. And now I went in
Yeah.
straight broke, no connections, just trying to make it work, you know.
Yeah. And I think another part of that, something that I saw early on when I was like researching like different designers and figuring out how do people get into this space, because when I started I had no idea. I was like, where how do I make that connection, how do I get this mentor, whatever have you. And you end up just starting at some point.
Yeah,
But
literally.
you know you just go. You just have to jump in it and just go. But with that, what I don't think that people have talked about enough, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the burnout portion of it. Like the burnout of one, not even only owning your own business and operating it as, like you are the maker, the creator, you are the business person, you are all these things. And it's like balancing that with like, it's like, well, why did I do this for the love of it? It's like balancing out with the love and the passion, and then having to the reality of having to do everything
Hmm.
yourself. Um, and even when you have help, it's still you. It's your business. It's you're the one that wants it to succeed. And at the end of the day, it falls on you. And I don't think people recognize that enough. Um, from any type of small business standpoint, but especially in a creative field, small business, I think people, have this idea again. It's like, well, you're getting to create and do fun stuff, so like it should be fun. It's like
They say that all the time, fun stuff.
fun stuff. Like as like sewing, I said sewing is 95% sweat. The other 5% maybe putting something in,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah, and I think like what you're saying about like the hard work, like even if you don't do the hard work, that means like you have to pay somebody else to do the hard work. Like so the work is still hard. It's still getting done.
yeah, someone's got to do it, and most of us, other than just the passion, but it's like, out of necessity, we're the ones like, hey, I got to do this. I got to learn how to do this because I don't have the money to pay someone to do this, or I just don't want to pay someone to do this.
Yeah.
Whatever way it works, you end up learning all those skills. So
Yeah.
it's
And I
definitely a thing.
think people don't realize how costly like it costs so much in general. Like I feel like this is the industry where you don't want a mistake to happen because the cost can be just so unforgiving. Like
Yes.
you know your skill, right? And you're like, I know when I do it, I can do it right. But like I don't know when I give it to someone else, they will do it right. Did they understand the instruction that I gave them? Are they gonna just change the stitch altogether? And those are the moments where you're like, oh my God, like I made a costly mistake because there's no do-over besides you just going to somebody else to redo it. So that means more money. And I don't think which what I consult which is why people consult with me about like apparel production because there are a lot of people who are just so ignorant to what that means, what the real cost is to have someone else do it, that they're almost always shocked and they're like, why does it cost so much? Because it's
Uh,
hard work. Someone has to do it. It is hard work. Like it cannot get done. And even when I was teaching classes, like I would, try to reiterate that, like, just because you see that shirt in the store and it costs $4, when you get to produce your brand, it's not gonna cost $4 to somebody. It's gonna cost way more. It's gonna cost you far more money before you could even break even on whatever you're making.
Yeah. I think I think the way that fashion is presented to us as, regular lay people, it takes out the human aspect of it. So we forget that there's a human on the back end of this. Somewhere in that chain, there's a human doing the work in multiple steps of this. Even if it's like machine made, someone's running that machine, someone's got to know how to run that machine, whatever it is. So this is still a very it's still a very hands-on industry.
Mhm.
And that's where your costs come in. And
Yeah.
so that's a perfect segue into my next thing. So let's talk a little bit about like fast fashion, right? So I think both you and me, we both have a a passion for like sustainability, right?
Mhm.
And I think another part of this whole thing we're talking about, the $4 t-shirt and all this, that, and the third. Um, we have gotten to a point where clothes and fashion and the design process and all those things have become very much like expendable. It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's here today. All right, we're gonna throw this away. We're gonna toss it. It's like the value of these skills and of like the labor and of the design process and creating things has kind of the value's gone completely down
Yeah.
overall. And it's not any one parts to blame on it, but I think fast fashion and the way it's been presented as so easy and so disposable has really taken a toll on that.
When I was looking at your vest, like all the things of like why nobody would ever be able to buy a vest like that. Like in person, like down to like the fabric, because like just even the selection of colors and prints and stuff is like so limited because they would rather just sell some of the most basic things for like a quick turnaround instead of like creativity doesn't allow. I think there's always like a conflict with creativity and capitalism because like
Yeah,
you would have to kill some of the creativity so that you could get more money. And when you think about that, like if people had clothing that was just a variety of print and just like people would actually grow attachment to their things.
yes,
People actually love those things. Like when someone makes them a outfit, like they hold on to that, or even just the whole thing of like I remember hearing the whole thing about like the ugly Christmas sweater, right? Everybody
hmm
always talks about that. Oh, they made it, but now like we don't have ugly Christmas sweaters. We have beautiful ugly Christmas sweaters because that's what's going to sell, right? Not
yeah,
the whole wonky thing that people used to do for a ugly Christmas sweater, which sure maybe nobody was wearing it, but it gave people attachments to it.
yeah,
And right now, that's why it's so easy to dispose of everything. It's even down with the quality because if you're like, man, this little pair of jeans that I got that didn't cost anything and it's wearing down, like I could easily throw it away also. Like I don't
right,
have to think about repairing it because it costs so little
yeah,
to repair. So even for me, like I personally, even though I need to, and that's always been like a downfall of mine. But I don't buy clothes a lot. I try to make my own clothes
same,
because I know I'm gonna wear the clothes that I make. Or like my sister, she made me like this shirt that I'm wearing. She screen printed. I think this is Solange. I forgot which song it is, but like it's the lyrics to her song. And I wear this shirt all the time because I'm like, when I get clothes, my whole thing is that I want to be able to value it. I
yeah,
want to be able to value like the print, the design, the construction. Like I'm planning to like ride this thing till the wheels fall off, and then even then I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna keep it.
yeah,
And that's just not how people are thinking. People are like, they don't think about prints or colors. Most people are only going to be driven at this point by what they're being told they should wear.
Yes.
Then they're getting it out of there. And they don't realize it's more expensive to live that way. It's way more expensive to live that way.
It's so much more expensive. Like again, but when you're looking at it like, oh, I only paid $2, $4, you don't realize that over the course of the year, you spent $500 on t-shirts, you know,
Yeah. And you don't
and
have any of them. You don't have any
you
of
don't
them to show for it.
you have none of them. They're gone, and what I don't like that around the bigger discourse. And one thing that I like when I talk about sustainability and tell people about it and everything like that, I never lead with the whole like you shouldn't shop at Shein or whoever or H&M whatever because that's fast fashion and you're trash if you buy that. Like no, one because you don't know why someone's buying what they're buying. One,
Yeah.
I'm not watching no one's pockets and I want no one watching mine. Buy,
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with buying a trendy item or buying trendy items or
Yeah.
following the trend. If that's what you do, that's what you do. It's fine. But I think the biggest issue is like again, I think with them, it goes back to with them taking like home ec out of schools and
Mhm.
people not knowing just basic stuff like basic mending. Like that was a thing that everyone and my dad knew basic mending when he was in the Navy
Yeah.
because he could, like repair a button on his uniform or something, whatever have you. So like basic stuff like that, a lot of people don't even know. It's like when they get a hole in that $4 t-shirt, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, trash. It's like, girl, wait,
Yeah.
we can save this. We can fix it.
I think too, like, and it's funny that you said that about people trying to trash as soon as they make things. I mean, as soon as they get a hole in something. Because when I was teaching, all the girls would say, "Oh my God, you have no idea how many leggings I just threw away because there was a hole in it." But now that I know how to fix it, I'll never throw them away. And I'm like, I seen the hole, like you threw it away for this itty bitty hole. Like, are you sick? And they're like, I did all the time. I was like,
They
oh my
don't
God,
teach the girls to repair the runs in their stockings with clear nail polish anymore.
nothing. They just like, oh, yeah. I mean, and it's so crazy because, like you were saying about people's choices, like I never, and I've talked on a few panels about that. Like I never tell them because, like, sure, sure, I can say like fast fashion is bad, it's killing the planet, all these other things. But I can also say like, sure, fast fashion is sometimes like somebody's first access to
Yes.
fashion in general, access to style, access to like figuring out their own personality, what they do like, don't like. Sometimes, especially when we talk about teenagers, this is like their first time being able to like really like buy the things that they want and just assert their own autonomy. So it's like I can't be telling like a 13-year-old don't buy this thing because realistically that's what they can afford. And then when you think about adults, realistically fast fashion is brought about like this because really, I mean, when we think about we're forced to depend on fast fashion. Like it's not like fast fashion hasn't always been around. It just has not been this prevalent and has been overused and abused because when you think about mass production,
Exactly.
like somebody is getting cheated at some point of the
Yeah.
production, right? Even if we don't see it, because we were like, oh, okay, we bought this $60 sweater. Okay, it's $60. But yeah, they probably still cheated somebody in the mass production process just so you can have this $60 sweater.
Yeah.
So, and two, they weren't selling it as much. And, so it's like, I feel I always feel a certain type of way, even in those discussions, because it's like I don't have children, but like I can imagine if I had children, like buying these $4 t-shirts is gonna save me some money when it's time for like back to school or
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate reality that we get placed under, but who I don't have an excuse for and I don't make exceptions for is anybody that's rich. Never. Like that's not something I would tell them. They know fast fashion is bad. They actually can afford real clothing and be able to have quality clothing. They have access
Mhm.
and to like I'm always shocked when there's like a celebrity showing how they're giving away their clothes and they just have rooms filled with like what was that? Was it Drake who had his whole
Oh,
basketball court
yeah.
filled with clothes? And it's like, sure, some of that is designer, but we almost, if we really peeled back that stuff, most of those stuff was probably like fast fashion. They bought at H&M somewhere, and it's like that's inexcusable. Like I can't make an excuse for you. I can't make an excuse for Rick Ross. I can't make an excuse for
No.
anybody else because it's like you didn't need that. And if anything, part of, in my opinion, it could be true, it could be not true, but I do think if celebrities did institute a culture of them just showing themselves wearing the same clothes all the time,
Yeah.
people probably would also get back to the fact that we're all normal and we probably do have favorite t-shirts, and it's okay to wear that favorite t-shirt a few times and be
Hmm.
photographed in it a few times.
Yeah.
And I think fast fashion sometimes make people operate in a reality that they know that they're not in, which is, yeah,
Exactly.
like you're not Selena Gomez. You don't need to have a different outfit for every Instagram post.
No. Lizzie McGuire, it's okay to be an outfit repeater, okay?
Yes,
It's okay to be an outfit repeater.
it's literally the best thing,
It's the
actually.
best thing. But I think also again, we are since we have the skill to make our own stuff. And to your point earlier, I made this out of a bed sheet that I thrifted.
Oh,
Yeah, it was actually pillowcases, and there's shorts that go with it. I'm not wearing the shorts today, but there's shorts that go with it. Then every time I wear this, people are like, "Oh my god, I love that.
yeah,
Where do I get that?" I said, "You can't. I can make you something like it, but it's only because you're
yeah,
not fabric no more. I don't know where I got it. I got it at a thrift store somewhere,
yeah,
but and I wear it all the time. But like every time you wear something, someone new is seeing it. One,
yeah,
but like you said, this culture of like social media and like fast fashion culture makes you think you need to have something completely new every single day. Even the stuff that I make, I went through stuff like, and I clean out pretty consistently, like reorganize and whatever have you. I was looking at some stuff. I'm like, dang, I've only worn this once, and I made it. I've only
mm,
worn it once, and why do I keep wearing the same five things that I made? But I made something new, and it's a little bit different because I'm like making it, so like I know where it came from and all that kind of stuff. But still, it's the point is like I can only wear so many clothes at a time,
yeah,
you know. So it's 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 a weird space that we're in. Like you said, fast fashion is not a new thing; it's just way more prevalent. But I also think, like you said, you know, there's no excuse for like people like Drake or wealthy, super wealthy people that have all this money to be doing all that. I think the other thing is we have shifted from placing the blame. We shifted to placing the blame on the consumer as to why fast fashion is way out of control where it is, instead of the actual companies that keep making this stuff. There's no reason why a fast fashion company should be turning out new styles daily
uh-huh.
and having 10,000 products on their website.
Yeah, because when you know something about like real garment production, and I understand that they streamline some stuff, but then that's part of the issue why the quality of clothing is so bad that I think people don't understand. Because it's like, sure, they've streamlined the process, but in streamlining, they have literally cut out things that are normally part of the garment production process. That that's why sometimes those shirts don't quite fit the way they need to fit, right? You know, people think, oh, it's my body. And it's like, no, they used to have literal, not even, I mean, I know we say designers, but they would have people who were actually pattern makers who would actually say, oh, no, this is off by this much. Let's fix this. And well, they've kicked those people out. So like they're just producing stuff however they want to produce it. And you're like, man, this shirt always fit funny. Or after you wash it, now it's twisting. And it's like, yeah, it's twisting because part of the process in fast fashion eliminates all these extra steps that would normally be a part of the apparel production process. And I know there's like this big push for like 3D modeling, but even then, like 3D modeling still requires some type of, pattern maker, but they want you to think that it doesn't. They want to make you think like it's so obsolete, and it's not. And it's unfortunate because in buying all of this clothes, right, it is producing waste. And those companies are making it seem like it's so easy. But I could tell you, okay, as a smaller brand who knows something about the base price. Now, I don't know what the recent base prices are because I haven't had my ear to the ground for it. But I'm pretty sure it's went up, of course, with the tariffs and stuff. But I could say for sure 2021, 2020, and before that, just to get a sample made for a jacket, okay, it could run you easily somewhere between $200 to $350, okay, for one. And then the cost for these jackets, right, will vary based off of how much you're producing. But if you can imagine, if we're not even making a sample and we're just going straight into production, we don't even care if it's right or not right,
Right.
and we're still trying to figure out how to be stingy and cut people off. Sure, maybe they're getting those, jackets produced for $40 when some places technically it's like 75 to 100 per X amount of jackets. So
Mhm.
it's like, then how are they able to then come back and sell it to you for $60?
Right. The math
That
isn't
means
math.
they just robbed somebody in the
Yeah.
process. And that's
Yeah.
the same thing for shirts. Like, easily a shirt for a sample from somewhere, if you were a small designer, will probably cost you about $40. And maybe they'll say, okay, we'll sew it for $20 or $15 each. That's without the material. You would have to still provide the material. So we're talking about most of these production places are also still providing the material. So it's like, well, then how are they selling you the same shirt for $4?
Yeah.
How? So it's robbery all the way around. Like, you're getting robbed as a consumer, feel like you have to spend all this, you know, $2, $4 to get stuff, and you realize you're spending more than what you have, and then the people who are producing are also not getting that money. Like, nobody is seeing the money but the apparel companies. That is it.
We're all getting we're all getting robbed in that way.
Yeah.
And the question always keeps remaining. It's like, okay, so how do we fix that? Like what are the things that would alleviate this, and neither of us have the answer to that. That's not in that. The reality is, again, that's not us as the consumers' responsibility to fix that problem. Now, obviously, there's power and we have buying power. It's like if we were to say we're not going to do this no more and just collectively just stop, then that would cause some changes. But again, these companies have to be held accountable for them starting this. If they weren't making so much stuff, we wouldn't be buying so much stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a give and take situation. But yeah, it's just it's weird because also there's different levels of fast fashion companies too. It's like
Hmm.
there's ones that like they're fast fashion, but they do it really well, and it's someone's still getting robbed somewhere, but it's not nearly as
Yeah.
bad as this one over here. And the price may be more. And even then, having a higher price tag doesn't necessarily mean it's more ethically created
That is
or whatever
true.
have you. You know, um,
That is very
just doesn't,
true.
it doesn't correlate that way, unfortunately. Um, but one place that I started seeing like this real like breakdown in quality, and I wasn't expecting to see it, is in concert merchandise. So like
Yeah.
I didn't expect to see it there. Like I went to the Cowboy Carter tour and but I will say this: the shirt that I got was
Hmm.
really good quality. And this is not. I love Beyonce, obviously, but this is not a because it's Beyonce thing. But like
Hmm.
of the
Yeah, but she
concerts
don't
that I've
produce
been
the
to,
shirts.
yeah, right. Of the concerts that I've been to, though, her merch is usually pretty sturdy. I would say.
Yeah.
Like I have my first concert I went to was a Destiny's Child concert, and I still have that T-shirt, and I got that shirt when I was 13. The graphic is still
Wow.
fresh, and I wear that thing weekly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got it's got a nice little patina on it now that's faded, but it's like it's perfect.
Uh,
But
yeah.
like that shirt has stood up the test of time. My Renaissance shirt's still doing okay. you know,
Yeah. I still got my On the Run Too shirt.
See, you know. So it's just interesting, like, and it's not, and it just quality across. Like, I mean, a good Gildan heavy duty, or Hanes, heavy duty hefty shirt. Those are always going to be standard. Like, they're great. They stand up well. Them little thin ones that they had, the comfort color, whatever it
Yeah.
is. I don't.
Yeah. And it was something I've noticed people are talking about, like some of the transfers of things not coming out right. And of course, people are like, oh, Beyonce. And it's like, again, like when somebody, well, this is the part where I said things can be costly, right? Because when you're the small designer,
Mhm.
like you can't even imagine like that happening to you because that is devastating because
Yeah,
you're like, the quality of the shirt is not great. Like I wanted this and they gave that. Like you would already be thinking like, dang, how can I even like recoup? Like how can I even reproduce this, or should I even sell it or not sell it, or because I
yeah,
don't want nobody to think my quality has went down, like what I'm providing has went down, right? But she's a bigger artist, right? So of course, but it doesn't look good, right? That
right.
people notice, and it just also shows like people are cutting costs. Like I'm sure she didn't necessarily cut costs.
Right.
And I only just say that in terms of like not saying that people don't negotiate in business, but she's not a t-shirt maker. Like she doesn't know what they're substituting to like nobody knows that. That's why it's always devastating when your production doesn't come out right. You're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
nobody told me
'Cause-
anything.
Yeah. Because it's it's devastating. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, what's supposed to happen? And that's an even better point because now you said at least in Chicago, y'all still have fabric stores. We ain't got that down here no more.
No, don't I know it?
Ah,
I didn't come back down there for grad school. I said, oh no, I can't do it again.
listen, no, I'm telling you, like, and I don't, and so this is the thing. Now we do have, of course, we still got some independent stores, which is great. But what I found with the independent stores that I've seen in Charlotte, you know, two things are don't work for me. I would say with those. Most of them are either interior fabric stores or like
Mm.
quilting. Most part, they sell like
Oh,
quilting
yeah.
stuff, and I
Okay.
use those for sure. There's not a fabric that I won't use for apparel, but if I need, you know, some satin or just a plain like broadcloth or whatever have you, they
Yeah.
don't have that. Or if I need interfacing or whatever notion, that I need that's versus like a wall, I need
Yeah.
buttons. It's just not a thing. Um, or the other thing that I love, and I say love sarcastically, is that they had these retiree ass hours. Be open from 10 to 4 Tuesday through Friday. Like what am I supposed to do with
Quilting,
that?
quilting places are really like that. It doesn't make any sense. Oh my gosh. And I only remember that because I had to buy some sewing machines from a quilting place for my former employment. And that was the thing. We were like, what can we call this place? Because they like not open at this time, but they close at this time. A
It's
mess.
crazy. So, with Joanne's being gone now, it's like what do we do? What do we do? Because this is the thing. Now Michaels has acquired that intellectual property that
Yes.
they have gotten. But and I didn't even know that before this that some Michaels actually sold fabric. None of the Michaels here
Yeah.
in Charlotte, none of them in Charlotte sell fabric, like currently. None that I've been to. And I've been to, I would like to say I've been to all of them before all this. And I never saw fabric in there. I saw t shirts and, like the little blank tote bags and whatever, but not like actual like bolts of fabric. So that was news
Well,
to
let
me.
me see about the Michaels one, okay, with the fabric. So they are selling it, but they're selling it full price, not your normal Joann's way. Full
Uh,
price, final sale. Anything that is a Joann thing, you'll know because it's gonna say final sale on it. Just thought I'd let you know in case they roll it into Charlotte at some point in the near future.
I've heard
So
that they
yeah.
are. I don't know when, but I've heard that they are because I did notice I went in there for because of what I do know is that they always had thread. It wasn't a whole lot of thread, but they had like I see the black or white or red, whatever they had it. So I went in there for some red thread, and I was looking. I was like, I need to get some fringe because I was making my Cowboy Carter outfit, and I just happened to look over on the wall. And I'm like, oh, they have fringe. They have like they had
Okay.
they had
That's
it,
shocking
and
to
I was
me.
like, "Shucks." I had no idea. And I got it there. It was expensive, mind you,
Hmm.
but I got it. Um, so I was like, okay, well that's new because that wasn't here before. So I think the rollout is starting because I know that the first thing that they did mention is that they bought all their yarns and like bought the intellectual property. So because one of my friends he crochets, and so like he was like, oh yeah, now I
Okay.
gotta go and get my yarns at Michael's. Um, but I really would love for conglomeration killed everything, as we know. But like
Yes.
we need like a mood or something here in Charlotte because we don't have like we had a Hancock Fabrics, then Joanne bought them,
I know. I used to
and
roll
now
over there all the
Joanne's gone.
time.
What do I do?
Yeah.
And I can't order online all the time. Like I don't want to. I don't because
Yeah.
as you know, I gotta feel it. I gotta see it. That weight is you telling me the weight on this online tells me nothing. I don't know
And
what that.
the color is always different. Like there's some places like I use that um I love all the time. Like one of them is Wawak. Like I use them,
I do know why.
but like the colors of Wawak, they may not be the exact colors you thought. You know what I'm saying? Like by the time they come, right? And so I do hate the Joann's clothes. Like I wasn't like a huge like when I was younger before college, I was a huge Joann shopper and because I was still trying to learn, right? So I'm like, okay, like sewing patterns and this and that. And I think what they did a good job at, which is why they were so successful, is that their whole thing was like, if you were doing a craft, we have it. Right. So it wasn't just like the quilting store. It's like, because quilting stores are always geared towards quilting people. Like, that's why they don't have nothing sewing apparel related or furniture related. But then that's the other problem with like Michael's because Michael's is just purely you're just a crafts person. Maybe you dabble in this and that, but like we just want to sell you crafts. That doesn't help me as a person who sews, right? And so even if they are gonna, well, some are selling the, things from Joann's, I'm like, well, I don't know if that still solves like our actual problem, right? Because our actual problem is, okay, well then what if I want grommets? Am I gonna be able to buy grommets at Michael's? Like, what if I want this and that? And it's so unfortunate because really, when we think about it, like the things that you even want for, because I don't have it all here in Chicago. Like, I would love to still be able to have what we have in New York, like here in Chicago. Like, I would love that. And my understanding, we did used to have some of that stuff here. But even then, like they're struggling to keep those things because they're trying to get rid of, they've been trying for so many years to get rid of the garment district. But it's also like, where do you want us to go? What
Yeah,
do you want people to do? Because people, even if it's not a mass amount of people making clothes and doing what you do and doing what I do, there are always somebody discovering that they, for the first time, that, man, this is what I want to do. This is what I enjoy. And then you
yeah,
just kill it. And it's like, what it's not enough for people in Charlotte to just have something and just be satisfied with what other with the options that they have. Like there has to be more. Like there has to be, and I wonder if somewhere down the line, like if there's going to be somebody or somebodies who are willing to just say like, we have to do more and create more from
yeah,
this, side. I mean, it is a huge undertaking,
yeah,
especially like I said with tariffs coming in. Okay, because I've definitely imported rolls of fabric and easily, you really need some decent capital, to be able to sustain it. But I also think like the people are there. Like there's so many people I know even if I don't know them directly, but I know like they're like you in Charlotte who are like, we literally need a place to go to get our things so we can be productive. Like, you shouldn't have to travel to go get the things that you want. I shouldn't have to travel to get the things I want. Like, I love the fact when I was in New York, one of the last times I went, I was like, man, I need trims. Let me walk down to MJ&J trims.
Mhm.
And I spent like probably 2 hours in there getting my buttons that matched with my trim. I was in heaven. Now what happens if
Yeah,
they get rid of that? The
right.
only
And
thing I had to substitute was Joann's.
exactly. It's almost like, not to be dramatic, but it's like there's a war on creativity in that sense. Like, because why you're getting rid of all the things that would allow people to be able to self-sustain, or even, like I said, just do it as a hobby, just to enjoy it. And it's like, if that's gone, then where do we turn? What do we have to look for? What are we doing now? um it's talking about travel. I was in Atlanta last time I was there, and I'd seen one of my other sewing counterparts. They were talking about fine fabrics down in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I tell you, it's like inside like an old, like, Kmart or something. Like,
Mhm.
it's big. And I was in there for 3 hours. Sure was. I mean, I'm talking about rows and rows and
Yeah.
rows and rows of denims and stretch fabrics. I'm working on a piece now. I'm working on a jumpsuit for myself, and this is silk. This is this I got like 7 yards of this for like $50, and they had like in
Wow.
four
Okay.
different colors too. I mean, I got elastic. I'm always using elastic, and I can never find
Mhm.
enough, to use. So I got
Yeah.
elastics, I got trim, I got notions. If I needed to get bra cups, like, they had everything. And I'm like, dang, I'm gonna have to start working like a quarterly trip down here and just like start
Yeah.
stocking up on, because it's ridiculous. Like, the fact that I can't even just go and get interfacing, like, just go up and get it. And that's what I liked about Joanne. It's like, oh shit, it's 8 o'clock. Damn, I need like one more yard of interface. Let me run down here before they close at 9 and go get this real quick.
Right. Yeah.
That one, what I
Yeah. And
get?
I'll definitely put you in contact with some people that I've used in the past for, different stuff that I'm sure will help you and even probably help you the cost down of like retail stuff because that's why I stopped with Joann's because as I started growing my business, of course I was like I need the wholesale cost. I can't do the retail.
Right.
But even then, like you said, I mean, even my peers who were running their own business, same thing. Like we're like, man, we needed a button real quick. I just ran down to Joann's to go get one. It was just so convenient. And I really do think, and this could be a little conspiracy theorist of me on my part, but I really do feel like what is happening is that capitalist society doesn't want us to make anything, don't want you to do anything, um, because they need more of your money, and more of your money means that we don't want you to spend it in your own interests and hobbies. Like we need you to, you know, pour into us because even to the point where the whole argument of like making your own clothes is cheaper is like already invalid to this point because they are showing us like you can buy your clothes so much cheaper than you going to get the fabric and making it yourself and spending the time and which is why I think that sometimes kill the creativity for people because they're like, why I gotta be creative? I don't have time for creative. I have time to go get this
Right.
clothes and do what I want. I have time to go get this food and I think it's nothing wrong with those things of like the convenience because I like convenience. But I think that we have gradually like really gotten away from this whole thing of like being able to just really be makers. Like there I feel like
Yeah.
there's just a shift to just discourage people from that. And it's so wild because when I was teaching, that was the thing I noticed a lot. Like people who are 16, 17 years old, they get to my class, that's the first time they've held a pair of scissors. They cannot tell you the last time they held a pair of scissors. They can't tell you the last time they've held coloring pencils or markers. And now they feel
Yeah.
weird and odd because they're like, what is this? Like, what am I, 4? Because that's the last time they remember. At 4 years
Right.
old, they've held scissors. And it's like, so then what does that say about them when they get 25, 30?
Right.
Now they want to probably try something, but they're probably first, like, even more embarrassed because they know, like, I've went most of my life not doing something with my
Yeah.
hands, creating. Um, so I think a lot of people, like, if they're not in education, they have no idea. Like, that's not something you would see. But as somebody who was there in education, very eye opening to see
Yeah.
like kids like just struck like because even then like in education most stuff now is being put on a computer. You're
Right.
not cutting out pictures to make collages, you're just going to make the collage on your computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so many things are really being cut out as far as the experience.
I never would have thought about that because, and that's crazy. I mean, there's definitely a direct correlation there. If the last time you created anything was when you were a child, and now you're in a high school or beyond, yeah, it's gonna feel weird. And that's why, and I think this goes into the whole narrative of like, specifically with millennials, where they're like, oh, we're like, why are millennials into all these childish hobbies or whatever? Like adult Disney kids, people, adult Disney people, or, I'm still into Pokemon or adult coloring books, stuff of that nature. It's
Yeah.
like we're trying to blame that because at some point in time, it was, we were probably the last generation, us 90s kids, we are like the last generation to have like arts programs in school, probably
Yeah.
because it doesn't exist anymore. I
Yeah.
remember learning how to, it was a thing. Everyone learned how to play an instrument like when I was in like in elementary school and middle school. Like they don't know
Yeah.
that's not a thing, or they don't even know how to do that. I can only imagine what art class are unless you're going to like arts high school or something of that nature. But
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, even at the school I was teaching at, it was literally two art teachers, and then one of them, he decided he wanted to teach IB art, so it just knocked out all these sections of art. So essentially, like, the kids didn't know we had art at the school, you know? So, but it's crazy because even I remember last school year, I gave them a fashion project. And if it wasn't clear, I taught a fashion class, intro and intermediate fashion. And my intro class, I basically I bought this project from this lady. I mean, at first I was like, oh, whatever, because she used AI to do it. But I was like, hey, you know what? We're gonna roll with it. So it was a time period of fashion, and for women and men. So it'll be like, okay, 1980s women. And it will be the different types of women style from that time period. And so I printed off
Okay.
everything and I gave it to all the students for the men, the women, everything. It was great. And I had kids who refused to do it. Mind you, they didn't have to do anything. Like the lady designed everything. She put the headers there, the lines, they literally just had to color and just put like color the outfit and color the headers if they wanted to and the little flower design she put on there. But they just had to write their information. There were so many kids who refused to color. They didn't have to draw anything. And people would see the poster. They're like, oh, this is so cool. Your kids drew that. I'm like, they ain't draw that. They're like, they did the header. They ain't do that. They just had to fill in, you know. And those kids was like, I ain't doing that. And when I would show their parents at parent teacher conferences, their parents were like, so they just had to write in color. And I would show them their poster, like, this is their poster. Some kids, their posters were all the way blank. And their parents were like, this is so easy. Now, generationally, okay, we're millennials. Their parents are what, like, I can't remember, Gen X or something or whatever. And
Yeah.
but they're basically like they're used to, like you said, those programs where they had to color and they cut and they're like they're so dumbfounded that as straightforward as an assignment as that was, and I mean completely straightforward, they're like, why wouldn't they do it? And then what was happening even more so, which I noticed, is as time went on, like I would have kids who just wouldn't sew anything in that class because they were like, I got to cut the fabric. I have to do this. I like this has steps. I have to remember these steps. I have to thread the machine. Like there was a whole weird disconnect, and when they realized like, oh, this is work. Like I like this is really hard work. And I'm like, yeah, like imagine like somebody is doing that for the clothes that you wore today. Like, and they're like,
Right.
mm-mm. They're like, this is too much. So I actually probably from when I started in 2018, uh, I probably had more kids who were sewing prior to COVID that by the time this year came around, there were more and more kids who were like, because they were like, I can't believe how involved this is. And that was the same thing with anybody who took art classes. The culinary teachers were struggling because these kids are like, why are we doing this type of stuff? Like we could just go get our food. We could like why I gotta prep the chicken? Why I gotta, paint on a canvas? Why I gotta do like they just and I know it's not for every kid, but it's noticeable in a classroom where you're with these different groups and you're like, whoa, like
Yeah.
this is the next these are people who are leaving high school at some point and this is how
Right.
this is their thought process. How does this stuff live on?
Yeah. Wow. And it's like, will they? I wonder if it'll be a thing if they'll ever like, discover it on their own, like later on, or they'll like, it'll like maybe, you teaching it to them like will resonate with them later on, hopefully,
Yeah.
because that I guess, and being a creative person, I always have, like, I've always been, I've always been in the creative space. So I've always been drawing, always been coloring, doing whatever have you. So, like, just imagine that people just don't do that or have never done that at all. Just, it, it's
Blows my
crazy.
mind. Right.
Um,
Like this picture that just that's something I made. I'm like, it just been flipped back.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been painting and doing things my whole life, and them kids are like, "What? What?" I'm like, "Never? Like you've never done it?" They're like, "No, I
Never,
haven't."
y'all never finger painted, nothing like
Right.
interesting. Huh.
And you could tell because when you see their handwriting, you can tell they don't use their hands at all.
Let me tell you something. And I know my handwriting overall has declined. If my grandmother could see my handwriting, she would smack the crap out of me. But I can still, when I sit down and actually take my time, gorgeous
Hmm.
calligraphy, you know? But they don't know how to do that no more. They don't teach that. They don't teach cursive anymore. And if we're going to talk about
They teach
conspiracies,
them how to write. I mean, I don't think they teach them how to write at all.
they, like, I mean, I
And I
remember
feel like
distinctly having to take writing in high school, like learning how to structure a paper, like having to write it out in, that 5 paragraph format, intro, 3 body paragraphs, ending, and building off of that. Sheesh, that really just blew me because I really just I never thought about that. 'Cause I think about my guy kids, and like I think I do see with them that they do still engage in those creative things, but tablets, I mean, like they get, like I said, a lot of learning comes through the internet and through like online mediums. You know, even if they're doing
yeah,
like a creative game or something, they're still clicking a mouse. They're not actively, you
yeah.
know. Mm-mm-mm. Wow. Well, I don't know. I don't know where we go from there. I mean, I guess but I guess
They just pray.
again,
That's all you can do.
we pray, we pray, we pray. Oh wow. Uh, um, Mm. There was something else I was going to ask, but that really that's I'm sorry, that one really just sent me because I never thought about that.
Yeah,
That like just
the kids can't write. They literally can't. They cannot write their. I'm telling you, if you saw the kids I had who were definitely like seniors leaving, you would have thought like somebody 4 years old wrote their names.
wow,
So
wow.
that's all. Like all you can do is pray, pray for the children going forward. Just
They're our
pray.
future, you
They
know.
ain't got no program. They ain't gonna have no programs going with Title I funding being froze and other stuff being frozen recently. Look, the kids are not gonna be all right. They are gonna
Yeah,
struggle. So
that
yeah.
is that's saddening. Well, I guess on the flip side of that, as adults who have had the opportunity and know better, because we learned it and everything, like, you know, what how are we able to continue that work for ourselves so we don't lose? Because what I've also seen is that, we've gotten used to convenience and more technology and whatever else have you. So it's like now we're kind of losing some of those recipes in a little bit. So it's like, how do we keep ourselves from devolving in a way? That's a
Yeah.
question I'm always like asking myself, like, because I recognize like I don't, and I love to read. I've got books all over this house, but it's like
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'm not sitting down and reading as much as I was. I mean, life, other things, happen, but it's like, am I just having those quiet moments? And how do I
Yeah.
make sure I do that? So,
Yeah. I just have on my wall that because I have my August goals because I've gotten away from reading. And I read fairly often, but I realized within this last year I had not read anything. And so I started getting back into that. But you know what I realized? Um, it's more so like for me, I realized I just had to be so intentional about it.
yeah,
So like I bought and I guess what frustrated me, which is why I started thinking about that as far as making that a goal, reading some of these books because I had bought quite a few books last year and just didn't read any of them. Some of them. I even went to like the authors thing. They signed the book, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read this book, and read none of them. And
yeah,
I realized like part of what's helping me because even in doing this work that we talk about, but it's hard work, it's strenuous, long hours. Sometimes you can always be like hunched over and frustrated, whatever. Um, it is so great to like intentionally have something that is a little bit more mindful in our lives and gives us outlets to just pour into ourselves again so we could kind of remain creative. And I think that's what I missed, which is why I was burnt out a lot when I first started because I didn't let none of that in. Like I was like just go 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 go. Like I wasn't reading books that made me happy, even if it was just like on the way to into work or whatever. And like I think that's kind of the thing that I realized it's so hard to do, but I guess if when you made up your mind like you just gonna do it. So like my goal
yeah,
has been for my book, I'm like, listen, you better finish 2 chapters. Okay, 1 to 2 chapters a day just so I could just keep on my brain, like, be committed so that way you could feel better. Because I do feel better, like, when I'm able to have a little
yeah.
outlet. I can't always just run across the country to some place and spend my money. Sometimes I got to stay put, um,
Hmm.
to recharge, Sometimes I can't just run off to Mexico. I got to pull out my book and and read a little
Like
something.
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard work, but we gotta stay put sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
Well,
I've noticed like when I made that intentional, I've been able to get back on track. So yeah.
yeah. I think for me, my problem is I got a little bit of the like I don't even know if I'd say it's a capitalist mindset when it comes to books, but since I work at a library, I'm
Yeah.
always surrounded by them. Um,
Yeah.
like so I'm just like, ooh. that one's coming. Let me grab that. I'll get them with the intent. It's just I recognize I love the act of acquiring. I love the act
Oh,
of
okay.
acquiring things, you know?
Yeah.
And I will use those things, but just like fabric, I mean, I have a a thing on my wall that says fabricologist, someone who's expert at storing fabric and just collecting it. And I'm like, that's me. I'll use it all. I know I'm going to use it
Okay.
eventually,
Yeah.
but if I see it, let me just grab that real quick. That's real nice. I'm gonna just
Yeah.
hold that.
Yeah,
Same
because
thing
you
with
may not
books.
think
I mean,
ever
I
again.
yeah, and that's what it is. And so again, it's that mindset of lack,
Yeah.
a mind rather than a mindset of abundance instead, and not have to collect. And what's crazy about all this is that one of my favorite things to watch while I sew is I watch hoarders. I
Same.
love watching hoarders while I'm sewing. Because it's kind of
Yeah.
like a reality check at the same time. It's like
Yeah.
this could devolve really quickly if you don't
Yeah.
stay on top of it.
A lot of those people are crafts people too. So
Yeah. I see how we got there. I see how
yeah,
you got
really.
here.
So yeah, they've set me straight. I think one time I watched Hoarders, I didn't buy literally any fabric for like a year and a half. I was just
Hmm.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't trying to be like, especially because some of the fabric I got, it was acquired through people who like their relatives died or maybe their relatives were moving and they were like, you so let me just dump this off. I don't want it to be thrown away or whatever.
Yeah.
And wow, with the stuff I bought and what they had, I was like, oh my God. And fabric scraps can make a pile too. So it's like it could be a lot.
Let's talk about the scraps. I I just had to start being okay because what I really would like to get to a point of is like a zero waste situation. That's ideal, but that in and of itself is a lot of work too. Because what I would love to do is like, okay, I finished all this, I got the scraps, I can make a quilt. I
Yeah.
can stuff a pillow. I'm making a pillow. I'm not
No.
quilting. I don't know. That's not something I want to learn how to do. Now I will
Right.
give him like I have does. He at least at one point in time he was making pillows out of scraps. He made beautiful pillows. So I'm like, here, I have a bag of scraps. I can give them to you. But again, it's like just that trade off still. Like, and of course it could get used at some point, but like I always do feel a little bad when I throw away fabric scraps because I'm like,
Mhm.
what could I have done with this? But nothing. So it's
Yeah,
hard, but
literally.
yeah,
It was only helpful
it's a
when I
mess.
when COVID rolled around and I had those masks I was selling. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the only time it came
yeah,
out clutch. Yeah.
right. Other than that, I don't know. But well, I mean, we're winding down now at the end of our convo. This has been amazing. I love this. But before we end everything, tell everybody what you got coming up. If anything you want to share about you got coming up, and just tell people where to find you so we can connect with you.
Okay, so what is coming up? Uh, so my website's still the same. www. Yeah, Adilah M ADILAHM.com. I still have that website. I still post on there every once in a while. New collections. What is happening right now, though, I am going back to school to get my MFA, so that I
Love it.
can continue on the work. So I'll be getting a master's, um, in fashion, body, and garment, and that's what we got going on.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode of Oat Milk. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Give us a follow on Instagram at Oat Milk Pod, HAUTEMILKPOD, and stay up to date with the latest episodes, get behind the scenes clips, and just join in the conversation. Hope to see you on the next one. Until then, bye.